Hey, I'm Robert. Back again tonight to talk about eating disorders and how they affect men. A little bit, maybe a little different, totally unscripted. So I wanted to talk specifically tonight. It's kind of early mid-February, and I'm a federal worker, and so at the moment in the United States, our Congress has put together like a funding bill that is, it's supposed to go to the president's desk, I think soonish, maybe tomorrow, the next day, for approval. And so my job is, it's not that my job is threatened, but I might get laid off or furloughed is what they're saying, for federal employees. And we just got back from literally 5 weeks, sorry. We've had 3 weeks back at work. We had 5 weeks of furlough. And so it's been a really stressful time at work. My job is very time sensitive. And so, I've had a lot of work to get done. We're really trying to push stuff out the door like yesterday so that we can get, these projects that need to be out the door and going in other people's hands to get the work done. We're trying to get it out the door, and so it's just very stressful for me personally. And throwing the uncertainty of not knowing whether Congress and or the president are going to be able to get, all of this stuff together and kind of signed and finished in time so that I won't get furloughed is really, really stressful for me. And I do want to clarify, not to say like, oh, woe is me, like poor me. I mean, I'm really lucky. My wife works in a different, different sector, different job, and so my wife and I are able to pay our bills and buy groceries. So we're very lucky. Not everyone is that lucky. But unfortunately, in my eating disordered mind, that doesn't really compute into taking my anxiety down and helping me to deal with things. So because my stress has gone from kind of like normalish to high to just way high, it's a stress level that I can't really deal with at the moment. And because of that, like I'm having a really hard time with my eating issues. And so that's really what I'm here to talk just briefly tonight about. I feel like you hear a lot of people, like the narrative in recovery videos is like, oh yeah, I had an eating disorder, and I've been in recovery for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, something, and everything is pretty good. It's great. No more problems. And maybe that's true for them, and that's great. I'm really a little jealous, actually. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case for all of us. And so I've been working on recovery for, I guess, about 2 years now. And so big things like this, things that are really stressful in my life, end up kind of triggering me. They really make it difficult to go ahead and just do basic things like eat. Part of why I'm making this video is that I want to try to share some of that experience with my friends and family, and with other people who just don't understand where people who have eating disorders are coming from, because it's just the reaction, right, that I have to really stressful situations. And so I'm working with my counselor to try to learn new skills, so that when really stressful situations come up like this in the future, I'll be able to use these skills to deal with the situations. But still working on that stuff. And so like today, right now, being really stressed out about this stuff has made it very difficult to eat. I'm personally doing really well, I guess. Like I had a breakfast, I had a lunch, I had a dinner, but it makes me feel better to eat less, right? And so I've started to see these symptoms, coming out. I had a hard time making myself eat breakfast. I had a hard time making the breakfast this morning. I mean, I stood at my sink for 5 minutes, just like I can do this. I can take bread. I can put it in the toaster. I can make breakfast. I've been cutting calories out of pretty much everything. It kind of feels stupid. Like, I don't know why I do this. It makes me feel better. It does make me feel better. I mean, I don't guess that, I know that. But it's just really hard to explain. It's really odd to feel stressed and then feel the need to deal with it through this particular kind of coping mechanism. But it is a coping mechanism, right? I know that smoking isn't as common now as it was in the past in the U.S., but if you are a person who's really ever smoked, what you'll find is that when you get really stressed, you get that urge to go get a pack, and stick a cigarette in and light it. It just helps you to deal with that stress, right? It's a coping mechanism. And there's all kinds of unhealthy coping mechanisms. Alcohol's one. We'll talk about that another day. It's not really a big problem for me, and I'm not endorsing it. Sorry. If it's something you can't do without getting carried away, definitely don't do that. But illicit drugs, spending egregious quantities of money just to feel better. There's a lot of things we do to try to help us feel better about things. They don't all necessarily make a lot of sense, and some of them can be very self-destructive, like an eating disorder. So I hope that kind of helps people to understand. I mean, this isn't really a choice for me, right? I don't go, golly, I feel stressed. Like, maybe what I should do now is stop eating. That'd be nice. Actually, it's the other way around. So sometimes I'll sit down to eat a meal, or I'll be kind of putting off eating a meal. And I kind of get this little epiphany that, wait a minute, I must be stressed about something. And so then I try to back out what it is I'm stressed about. In this case, it's pretty easy, right? There's this big stressor, job, earning a living, paying my mortgage, buying groceries and all that stuff. And so it's stressful. So I think anyone, I think everyone can really understand kind of that urge, right, to deal with things through coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily beneficial or helpful. I think it's a pretty common experience, and unfortunately for some people, the coping mechanism of not eating to feel better can become almost like an addiction, I guess. That's one model that I've heard of it, where you just get this urge and you can't really control it, sometimes all the time. And so kind of working toward the goal of controlling it, finding more beneficial, more helpful, healthy, positive kinds of coping mechanisms is definitely something I'm working toward, and I'm looking at and trying to do. But it's again, like, if you're a smoker, someone who quit smoking, most people who have been there will kind of carry that tick for most, if not all, of their life, right? They feel stressed. A cigarette would fix that. It's this feeling. It's your brain is interesting. It gets pretty wired, I guess, to things. And so if you get wired to, like, this not eating is going to make things better, it's going to make me feel better, it's going to fix my problems, it can get easy to get stuck in that. And that's just what's happened, right? So that's where I am today. Hopefully, in the next couple of days, this will just go away. Hopefully, Congress and the president will work their stuff out, and I'll be able to, just kind of go back to work and get stuff done because we got a lot of work to do. We're a month and almost a half behind. But you know, however the situation works out, I'm continuing to work on my own kind of issues around this stuff because life is stressful, right? We all hit stressors, stuff that's tough for us. It might not be something that is necessarily difficult for others, but it's very individual, and that's okay. Everybody's their own person. We're all different people. I mean, some of us can have a drink now and again and enjoy it and not get addicted to it, and some people can't, and that's okay. The world is made up of a lot of different people, and that's a beautiful part of what our world is and who we are. But for me personally, I just gotta kind of deal with this, and we're gonna get there because that's the only option. There's a lot of important stuff, like seeing. There's a lot of important stuff. Family's really important, so gonna fix this. It's just gonna take time. But I wanted to share that with you because recovery isn't. It's not a one-way road. You're working hard on it, and it looks good, and then life happens. It knocks you back, and that's part of the learning process. So I'm going through that learning process right now, and trying to, to get stronger at being in recovery, and trying to move away more from letting that be how I deal with things. So, thanks for listening. If you have the chance, there should be a video I'll be putting out soonish. Actually, it's all about a woodworking project I did during the government shutdown to try to keep myself, busy and just to kind of feel good about getting things done and not focus on eating, for example, as a way of dealing with the stress. So hopefully you'll check that out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.